Unicorn Roast.
All right. Good luck. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Unicorn Roast podcast. I'm Mike Elgin, and with me is Emily Forlini, and we are here to solve the world's problems. Emily, how are you doing?
Good. I'm very good. I'm in the 11th hour before a vacation to Puerto Rico, so I'm excited about
Sweet.
that. How about you?
Beautiful. I'm just, just in the Valley of Silicon and just between trips. We go to Sicily in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to that. I hope the volcano doesn't blow while we're there. It's been very active lately, but yeah, other than that, just enjoying life here in California. The weather's actually after some rain pretty good. So
Good, good. Shielding my face from all the news of the tariffs that's melting it.
yeah. Yes, that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I've been actually looking into that a lot and was wondering why certain countries were given tariffs. And I worry about it because many of those countries are the ones that we go to frequently. So I don't know how
Mm,
that's going to affect relations or any of that stuff. But anyway,
right.
you and I both spend a lot of time, probably more than than any human being should, talking to chatbots and interacting with AI. And you've recently been yucking it up with ChatGPT. What's been going on with you and ChatGPT?
Yeah, so it finally happened. And by that I mean I was speechless with being impressed after talking to
Oh, really?
ChatGPT. Yes, and I smiled to myself. I saw the future. I was like,
Wow.
wow. And I
Okay.
was
Well,
so amazed.
I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear what happened. This is
Yeah.
incredible.
So, I mean, yeah, because just the backstory, I'm always like, I get hallucinations all the time. There
Yeah.
truly are so many problems that sometimes it's hard to be like, why is anyone excited about this? Like, it
Right.
doesn't work for me. But it
Yeah.
finally worked for me. So, I think in a previous episode, I talked about buying a house. You're buying a house.
Yes.
So, we got a total fixer upper, like, has been touched since
Hmm.
1960. And one
Oh,
big project
groovy.
is remove. Very, very groovy, very panely,
Uh-huh.
very weird colors.
Hmm.
One project is replacing the HVAC. So there are radiators and no AC.
Okay.
So that doesn't work in New Jersey. And
No.
so we've been like, first things first, we got to figure out the HVAC guy. Because if they take out the ceilings, you need to fix them. There's a whole order of operations to things. And so I spent last week getting four different quotes. Each person had a very different opinion. And of course, I know nothing about HVAC. And they sent us the quotes with the pricing, the equipment they were going to use, whether they were going to do one system or two systems, whether they're going to do a furnace or a heat pump, and like all these like technical things. And of course, the bills are just massive. So it's a big decision.
Yeah.
And I put all of the quotes into ChatGPT and I described the layout of the house. I sent it some pictures. I sent it the cost of natural gas, which we use in this area, or electricity for the heat pump. I told it the thermostat, like how I would set it in each season. And it did an entire analysis on which of the four quotes made sense for my house, like what the average cost of operation would be, where some of the quotes were lacking details, which ones were doing made sense. It pulled the specific types, the models of each type of equipment and the pros and cons of each equipment. And it just looked at the comprehensive quote in each one and made a totally sensible recommendation and like that.
Wow.
It was
That's
amazing.
incredible.
Yeah. And it was
That,
really, really, really helpful.
and how could you tell that it was a good result? Like how could you tell that it actually selected the right
Yeah.
company?
So part of the reason I might have been happy is because I probably spent 10 hours on this myself and came to a conclusion, and then ChatGPT agreed with it. So I was like,
Okay.
yes. And then, but I was pressing it because it's too nice. It's kind of like a yes
Hmm.
man, a yes
Hmm.
woman. And I kept asking like, do you really think that? Like, and it said, I really do think that if you don't believe me, I can argue the other side. So I was going back and forth with it, saying, okay, well, argue the case for this quote, or tell me what the cons are in the one you selected. Like, what would be
Hmm.
the case to not do the one you selected? And I was spending hours talking to ChatGPT about HVAC,
Incredible.
and it was like really cool and really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And this is the thing. It's so great when it's great, and it's so not so great when it's not so great. And this is the thing, and it's up to the user to figure out whether a result is usable, or advice in this case is good
Yep.
advice. You never want to just grab the language and have it represent your own. But when you're looking for a widely cast net, and
Mm-hmm.
AI is good at that, and you're looking for analysis you can work for. And I've always worked with, and I've always found to be true what you're describing here, which is that you really get the most out of it if you just keep hammering away at it, and sort of testing it, and pushing its buttons, and just challenging it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you sort of get, we've all had the experience where you say something, and you put in a prompt, and it gives you a result, and you're like, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
You'll say, like, what are the top 10 Silicon Valley companies, and it doesn't mention Google. And then you say, well,
Yeah.
what about Google? And it's like, yeah, you're right.
Totally.
You caught me. I'm
Yes, that's
sorry. It's
why I
like,
was doing that. I was like,
yeah,
do you really think what you're saying? Because it
right.
kept saying, like, oh, the one you selected is the perfect solution. And I was like, are you just
Yeah.
gassing me up? Like, what are we doing here?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, this
Yeah.
leads into something I wanted to talk about as well. And so I'll blend this into sort of your segment in the
Mm-hmm.
rundown. Um, but I've been discovering new things that are along these lines as well. One of the big things that has happened, I think it happened yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, is that Notebook LM added a new feature that will go out and get data points. So I've actually started using Notebook LM as my first draft for writing columns, because there's a
Okay.
notebook feature where you, like, add a notebook, and it's a word processor with limited formatting options. And what I do is I'll grab, oftentimes I write things that where there's PDFs involved. It's either science, or it's research that has been published by one of the tech companies, or a lot of data. But I throw all the data into Notebook LM, and then I use it to kind of check things and fact check, and all that kind of stuff. And over in the pane on the right, I'm typing away and writing the first draft. I was midway through using it this way, talking about Google's AI mode, and
Mm-hmm.
they added a new button, said get more sources. Or I don't know what the button's called exactly, but you press the button, and it will go out with the data that you've already got in there, and it'll find more. And it found all these different sources, and yeah, throw all that stuff in there. You can select them and say don't include this, but you can
Right.
include them, and then that adds to the data that it uses to answer your queries. That's really cool, and that's also a nice way to fact check one AI resource against another. I usually will use another AI resource and then fact check it with Notebook LM, because that has the 48-page PDF with the hardcore
Right.
data that's the original source. And so I like that as a fact checking resource. So that's one thing. Okay. The second thing is that I've been playing with AI mode, which is Google's AI based search. They
Yeah, I got
released
an
it on the
email about
5th,
it. I got
yesterday, right? Or
access
a
today or
couple of days
yesterday.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this has been out there for certain users since the 5th of March. And then they just rolled it out for, you're on the test program, whatever they call the labs,
I am, but now I'm
early.
like, why haven't I had it since the fifth? Am I on
Yeah,
my
I
on the B
know.
list?
I know. I should ask AI mode, but have you noticed
Right.
how cool it is? Like, it's very concise. As
Mm.
one of the problems that generative AI chatbots have is that you say, why is grass green? And it goes on and on and
Right.
on about all this stuff, and you're like, okay, I just want,
Gemini does that.
yeah, yeah. And Google's AI mode very much does not do that. The
Mm.
sentences that it uses are very tight sentences, and it
Mm.
just gives you that thing and the next line. And then the other good thing about it is that it lists all the sources on the right. It surfaces them
Yep.
initially better than other chatbots. which I also like and which I think is appropriate for essentially a search engine company to do,
Hmm.
because it's doing a search and it's a RAG system, so it's doing the search, then it's giving you data from the results of that search, and I really like that. Now, and I want to get back to AI mode after we finish talking about this stuff. But the other thing that I think is interesting is that so ChatGPT keeps getting better. Perplexity, which I always talk about, is getting better. They're all sort of getting kind of better, but
Hmm.
at some point, um, it becomes risky because if it gets good, and like, you were surprised that ChatGPT
Yeah.
gave you such good information at the end of all this, right? Um, when it gets to the point where it's surprising when it makes a hallucination, people are going to rely on it too heavily, and they're going to think, "Oh, this is just, this is all everything it says is
Right.
true." And in fact, that happened with the internet itself in the early days. Anything on the internet, people just thought was true because initially there
We're
wasn't a lot of
kind of
spam and
there
garbage.
with AI, honestly. I think
Yeah,
most people think it's true, which is the problem.
yes, that's
Yeah.
absolutely.
Right.
And so I think that's really interesting, and I really think that there are so many good chatbots out there. I mean, ChatGPT, I use it sometimes, and I think it's really good. But I like all these specialty um, uh, uh, services. I'm really enjoying
Yeah.
multiple things like Kagi Assistant, like Kevin has a family plan for Kagi Assistant. So he just, I mean, it's
What's
not
that
Kagi
one?
Assistant. So Kagi is actually a search engine company, and their model, part of their model is that they don't have advertising. It's all paid for. So you pay for it, and
Mm.
then you get search without advertising. And it's really high quality search. This is great stuff. They also have a Kagi Assistant, which is like a chatbot, and they're working on they have a couple of other offerings, but the search engine is really
Yeah.
nice. And so I'm like, if I do a Google search or if I search something in an assistant nowadays, I'm kind of just going to the Kagi search engine, and I'm saying, give me give me some really high quality links, and I sort of check it out on that
Got it.
instead of Google. And so
Well,
that's
I'm kind of thinking, I mean, my after my big HVAC success and a couple other home related things I've done is I kind of just want to stop using ChatGPT for search in
mhm,
general because I have really that has what's degraded my perception of AI over the past year is just the
mhm,
inability to consistently get correct information.
mhm.
But when you're uploading a document, I think that's a much smaller little playground for it, and it felt like it was helpful, and it searched things like the model of the furnace or what the standard HVAC process should be, and I felt like it was a lot more controlled and a lot better that way. So I'm kind of you're like master of search with AI, and maybe because you're actually using Perplexity and this what's it Kaguya AI.
Kagi, Kagi.
Kagi.
Yeah.
So you're actually using good search ones. Like maybe I'll if I want to do AI search, I'll just do that and stop using ChatGPT, which is just failing me, and use it for other things.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that always happens to me, and it is that AI chatbots they're like a unruly teenager who's trying not to answer something when you're directly asking questions, and is trying to give you an answer that will satisfy you while avoiding the topics they really want to discuss. I'll say things like, and we're all getting better and better at prompting all the time, right? So, but I I'll ask it, tell me specifically all of the, headphones, for example. I've been looking for headphones lately that
Mm-hmm.
that use USB for the data, that work natively with a MacBook Pro, M1 MacBook Pro, that blah 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 blah, and then it gives me stuff that doesn't fit the criteria. And then I go and I
Right.
scold it, and I'm like, I said things that work with MacBook Pro, and then it gives me the things that work with MacBook Pro, but then it
Right.
drops another criteria. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't do
Mm-hmm. And you don't
USB,
have to do that
and I'm
on
like,
Google. When you put MacBook Pro, it just does it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I end up just chasing it, and I end up just I realized that the way to do is you have to just redo the prompt with the total specifics. You have to scold it. You have to say things like, not like you did before. This time, actually um, take into account all of the criteria that I specified in this. You have to
Hmm.
get like hyper, like a
Right.
teenager who's like, you know, and so it's I find that really fascinating. And one other
Right.
final thing I think for prompt engineering that I think everybody should have. I keep a note. It's just a text file, happens to be an Apple Notes, but it's basically stuff that I want to go with specific prompts. So I have one that says, be specific, give me the facts, tell me who, what, where, when, where, and how. Don't give me bullet points. Be factual, and like all
Hmm.
this stuff that you should, you would assume you wouldn't have to put in. And I just copy and paste that into my prompt. And
Mm.
then I have another one that says, give me the specific facts in a bullet point list. Sometimes I'll do that because I just want something to refer to when I'm writing something, and I want the
Right.
date that somebody announced something or something. Plus, I want, the title of the executive who announced it, and all. I want it just there in front of
Mm.
me. So I'll prompt that kind of stuff. But I find that's very helpful. You're supposed to be able to do that in some of the chatbots in the settings, but I like to switch between multiple ones. So
Mm.
sometimes I want no bullet points, no subheads. I want three sentences, and sometimes I want bullet points, and sometimes I want
Right.
something else. So
Hmm.
so that works
See,
for
I
me. And
actually I went the opposite direction. It was doing what I wanted it to do naturally, like creating tables comparing the cost of operation in fall, spring, summer, winter. It was, comparing so many side by side charts and tables, and they were super easy to read and very helpful. So I was less on guard. Like I wasn't telling it what to do and kind of struggling to instruct it like a child. I was kind of just relaxed, and I found myself speaking to it like a person. Like I was like, "Oh, here's a quick. What do you think of this one? What do you think of that? Like, is that going to be an issue if the winter is as cold as it was this year?" And it would be like, "Yeah, the winters were extra cold this year. I see why you're asking that." And I was like, really having a talk with this software. So I basically put no extra thought into the prompts, and I found my language becoming more and more casual and more human like, and it was just like picking up what I was putting down. And I'm this is maybe embarrassing, but I probably spent like 2 to 3 straight hours talking to ChatGPT about HVAC. Like,
I don't think that's
and
embarrassing at
my
all. I mean, it's
yeah, my husband didn't want to listen to it. My family members, I tried to call them. I don't know if it made me more passionate about the subject or what, but I just felt like, oh yeah, like the plan we picked is so smart, it's so energy efficient, like there's this and that reason, it'll work today, it'll work in 20 years. I got like so jazzed up on the plan because I felt like I understood it rather than leaving, the experience with these contractors, and I'm like, I don't really know what you're doing, but it's expensive.
you saw a glimpse into the future because this is really where we're all headed, where instead of using AI to make yourself dumber, in other words, to just give you an answer, you used an interaction with AI to make yourself much smarter. I would guess
Yeah.
that the amount that you know about HVAC systems now is 100 times more than it was when you started.
Yeah.
That's in a
Even
couple.
ChatGPT was like, you're looking into this a lot more than most people. Like, you're really getting into
Yeah,
the details. And I was like, oh man, that's now I'm on hour 3 and I'm even getting called out.
but what a way to 3 hours to learn as much as you learned about it
Yeah.
is pretty great. And so this is how I often do it. I'll often be curious about something, and I'll run it through an AI chatbot of some kind and get an answer, and I'll go back and forth, and you really can learn fast if your intention
Hmm.
is to learn something. You were both learning something and also trying to get a result, and you were learning on the fly so that you could push it to give you a better result. And the
I
result,
was.
it's kind of like a what do they call it, a GAN system, a generative adversarial network system,
Hmm.
which is what deepfakes are based on, where you have one AI that is good at telling whether something is fake or not, and another AI that's good at learning how to make things that are believable fakes. And it keeps
Mm.
trying and trying and trying and trying and trying, and they both increase their ability and skill. And by the end of it, the thing that is trying to generate fakes makes fakes that are so good that they can fool a human. And so, but you were
Mm.
kind of doing that. You were going back and forth with this thing, and you were
Yeah.
pushing it. It was giving you stuff, then you weren't sure, and you just
It's
kept
true because it was learning more and more about the house and more about like how I'm going to use the house, the area we were talking about with the area in New Jersey, the policies, the energy policies. I mean, we were just getting like no one would have talked to me about this.
right, right.
And I left this conversation thinking I was a genius, and I texted my friend and she was just like, "Oh yeah, I did that when we picked our structural engineer for our renovation." I was like, "Oh, like other people are just doing this." So
Wow.
like, what have I been doing? You know?
One of the things that is an underutilized way to prompt is that it's nice to tell the chatbot what role it's playing. So
Mm,
you are New Jersey's most expert HVAC person. You tell this to the chatbot, and you are, a highly coveted consultant for home HVAC systems who knows
right.
the laws of New Jersey and the
Hmm.
weather and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
If you
And you
if you
bias
start,
towards new technology because that's
that's
the other
right,
thing.
that's right,
Hmm.
and all that stuff, and you basically tell it who it is. You get much better results. You really do. It's
Yeah.
really kind of fascinating that works, but it does. And that's the other
Hmm.
thing about these chatbots. Nobody knows how they work exactly. Nobody, not even the people who built them. They kind of sort of know, but they don't really know. And there's new methods that they're
Yeah.
coming out with to try to look inside and figure out how it's figuring things out. And one of the things, there's a study that came out this last week that did this. I think it was the people who make Claude, right? That they did this
Hmm.
thing to test on their own AI, and they found something really interesting. So what people have been assuming is that uh, LLM-based chatbots piece together their response one word at a time, and they say, okay, what would be the next word? And then here's the next
Yeah.
word.
That
What
was
would be
the
the next one?
original
Here's the next one.
understanding.
They
Yeah.
learned that it's actually looking ahead sometimes
Hmm.
and saying, well, here, this is gonna what's going to be here, and then let's go back here and finish that.
Oh, wow.
Especially with poetry. So when it's trying to rhyme words, it will do what humans do, and they figure out the rhyming word before they figure out how to arrive at that
Hmm.
rhyming word, which makes a lot of sense, and it's exactly how people write limericks or rhyming poetry.
Hmm.
So that's really kind of fascinating. But anyway, nobody knows
Yeah.
how these things work, and for some reason, telling it what its expertise is will make it go, oh, I guess I'm really smart. Maybe it's self-confidence. No, what it
Yeah.
probably is that it's dealing with this huge database of sources ranging from people who know nothing to the lay public to the experts. And you're basically telling it with that prompt, forget about the know nothings and the lay people and just give me the expert opinion because you're one of them.
Right. Right. Right.
And so it
Well, on
works.
that note, it is very clear, at least in this instance, that it's just gutting the business of the sources that feed it. I mean, it linked to so few materials. The only times it linked to anything was when we were talking about building codes and energy laws, because I think it was programmed to have more sensitivity around legal topics.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, though, I mean, if HVAC companies are making materials on how heat pumps work or how the furnace works, and like just everything it knows it didn't create, and I'm like, well, if you're way too good, and now you're taking business from other people, and so I mean, we knew this years ago, but it's just it continues to be the thing that I don't know how it's going to protect its information quality because there's no financial incentive for the people who provide it to provide it and provide better and better and better information.
And it's in fact worse than that. This is on the rundown. This is my last thing on the rundown. Maybe we should just segue right into that, and then we'll
Yeah.
circle back on your second thing. But
Should we do a brief aside for anyone listening and about how this podcast works on like what is the rundown?
yeah, yeah. Why don't you give a rundown on the rundown?
Okay, rundown.
What is the
So
rundown?
basically, we have a very bare bones way of doing this podcast, but we create in Google Sheets a tab of what we're going to talk about that episode. So we each put in a couple of things. We have links to it, and we kind of order it in terms of how we want to talk about it. And then we say what I'm going to do, what Mike's going to do. Um, what else do we have in there? Sometimes some
We just
notes.
have just little prompts to say, okay, here's how you start the show, here's how you end it, and that's the
Yeah.
place where we put links. So when we build the show notes at the end, we have the links there, we have the titles, we know what we've been talking about. But it's really just, I go in there and put a couple of items in there, what's on my mind. It's usually things I've been writing. You do the same. We put it in order. So, whoever starts the show, the other person is the first with their sort of story or their idea that they want to talk about. And then we trade off. One goes, then the other goes, then the other
Hmm.
goes, then the other goes. Then we wrap it up. So the rundown is there. We're looking at the rundown. And what I'm referring to is that we basically haven't done the third thing. And I'm saying, you're kind of bringing up the subject of the fourth thing, so maybe we should talk about that, and then we'll come back and talk to the third thing. Doesn't matter to you, the viewer and listener, but this is so we're on the same topic.
Right.
I just don't want to start talking about something and then come back and cover it. So
Right. Right.
let me just talk about my. It's not a long thing to talk about, but you mentioned this problem that we have, which is that people are out there generating content, people like you and me, but also HVAC
Hmm.
companies and every kind of company and every kind of consultant and people who
Everybody's making content. That's been the name of the game the past 10 years with SEO. You must create content to participate in the internet.
exactly. And the content is the thing that those websites are offering. There's a type of very important category of website called open access websites. Probably the best example of this is Gutenberg, where it has tens of thousands or more open source books. They're books, other types of material, and they just put them on the internet because they believe that this content should be free and available to lots of people. The chatbot spiders, the AI spiders, come along and they hoover up all this information and they dump it into the thing. So if you are wondering what the opening paragraph of a Mark Twain book says, right? You're looking for a quote or something. A few years ago, you might go to Gutenberg, you might find the book, you might open it up and read down and find it.
Right.
Nowadays, you go to ChatGPT and you just ask it, and it just tells you. It got that information from
Right.
the open access
Right.
website.
Except for don't do that because when I asked it for a Reagan quote about tariffs, it gave me a quote, and then I asked what speech was that from, and it said, "Oh no, that's not a quote. I made
Yeah.
that quote up." He might
Yes.
so specifically don't quote anyone
Yes.
without seeing it with your eyes. That's like
Yeah.
a sacred thing we have. Quotes.
Yeah.
Don't let's not mess it up.
When you caught it red-handed, it said, "Well, that's not what he said, but he should have."
Yeah,
Um,
which is not a quote. That's like a script. I don't
exactly.
know.
Exactly. But here's what's really happening. So essentially, open access databases, science information is
Mm-hmm.
often just published on the internet. Terabytes of the scientific works. These are the
Terabytes.
detailed results of a lot of hard work, a lot of grants and money spent, a lot of professionals developing conclusions, doing science, and then interacting with each other and all this kind of stuff, and they put it out there. The AI spiders just come in and just hoover it all up, and then it just goes in there, and you say, "What causes hepatitis?" And it just gives you an answer.
Right.
So it's using those sites, but at the same time, it's providing an alternative to you using those sites. And so, like you were saying, what's the incentive? But here's the other problem that's
Mm-hmm.
happening that is underappreciated. Those spiders are actually harming the websites. The traffic is so great from AI spiders and other kinds of bots that are out there on the internet that
Right.
it's like a DDoS attack on these sites. And so one of the reasons why you have lots and lots and lots of training for an AI chatbot is that it makes it give you a good answer faster. So by using these sites often without permission, definitely mostly without compensation, to make themselves faster, they are actually making those websites slower. And so
Yes.
so the trick to, I don't think it's intentional, but what is in fact happening is that part of what makes the chatbots a more appealing source for people looking for answers is that they're faster and faster and faster, and the alternative sources are slower and slower and slower. This is one thing for open source information, like a novel that was published 120 years ago, that kind of thing.
Right.
But like for scientific research or the kind of things you and I do, like
Mm-hmm.
I spend a day or 2 days or 3 days, sometimes 4 days, writing an opinion piece, and then it'll just incorporate that opinion without ever sending anybody to read
Right.
my larger
Yeah, I don't
argument.
see a little my wallet's not getting bigger, or
Yeah.
even seeing the spirit of the work. But did you see that? Are you bringing this up because Wikipedia came out with that issue?
No, I'm bringing it up because it's I've read a few. I'm starting to hear complaints about it from people
Right.
who really are passionate about the open access websites.
Got it. Okay,
Um,
so Wikipedia this week, like yesterday or 2 days ago, I thought that's what you're talking about. They came out with a whole statement about how it's ruining their infrastructure. So they had a graph of, the traffic, and then it was like chatbot hits. And they basically were saying, we're a free repository of information, but our infrastructure is not free. Like you can't
yeah,
overtax our infrastructure. And all these
right.
chatbots, they use Wikipedia so heavily. It's like a huge part of AI today and where it's
Yes.
going.
Well,
And Wikipedia is like SOS. It's not good.
that's actually a third, in addition to making it degrading the user experience. The third thing is it's costing the sources money to
Yeah.
basically let to be stolen from. It's like they're paying
Hmm.
ChatGPT,
It's not good.
Perplexity, and all the rest
Yeah.
to steal their thing and provide an alternative. And the less, Wikipedia is a perfect example because the less they're used directly, the less motivation there is for people to donate to the Wikipedia Foundation,
Right.
and they just wither and die. And then when these open access sites die, then it's just chatbots. That's all we have, and no
Hmm.
new, nobody's incentivized to put new knowledge into
Right.
the system. And if you think, you, the listener and viewer, think that, wait a minute, these spiders are nothing. They're just coming around. So why is that a big deal? That the percentage of traffic, internet traffic, that is done by bots of all kinds keeps going up and up and up and up. So if you
Hmm.
try to hold in your mind the scale of human use of the internet, the traffic, for example, if people are watching TikTok videos are big files. That's a lot of internet traffic just to watch one little video. High quality videos, looking at pictures, uploading pictures, downloading pictures, going
Right.
through and scrolling fast through Instagram, uh, email, all the things that people, if you consider how much the population of the earth is using, it's unbelievable to know that 80% of the internet traffic is bots and not people.
Right.
So all of the
Right.
activity of people represents only 20%, and the rest
Wow.
of the 80% is being paid for by all these other people, not the AI companies. They're just taking, taking, taking. And all these other people are paying for the server time, the data centers, the
Right.
all of it. And it's really become an unacceptable problem, and
Hmm.
something has to be done about it. And it's made worse by the fact that there was an intention early on to use the robots.txt. So if you have a website and you
Hmm.
want, it used to be for search engines, if you wanted Google and the other search engines to index these pages over here, but not this page here, you would have a robots.txt text file on your website that the spiders would find, and it would say, "Oh, he doesn't want me to look at these. Okay, we won't look at those. We'll just look at these ones." And the search engines honored that. The AI companies are not honoring that. They see the text file and they're
Right.
saying, "Nope, we're just going to take it anyway." And it's just it's just wrong. It's just
Yeah.
unfair. It's not going
It's
to
the
end up in a
service
good
is
result.
too good. It's too good to be true. I mean, without
Yeah.
causing some harm to someone else, which I don't know. I'm trying to think of an analogy. Like maybe it's you're hunting with an unregulated gun that you're basically hunting with a machine gun and you're like, wow, this takes out the deer real quick.
Yeah.
It's like, that's
Right.
great. But also you just sprayed all the trees and the trees are now going to die.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe you should be more precision with it. It's kind of like, there's a lot of things that could be so amazingly good, but we do restrict them because there are ways in which they can cause harm outside themselves. And that is what we have not quantified or even figured out remotely how to regulate or get our arms
Right.
around for AI. But I hope there's a way we can have at least some of this good thing without what I see as a very serious information problem that we're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that will help a lot is if people were more conscientious consumers and
Yeah.
gravitated toward the more responsible AI companies. That would
Hmm.
help a lot. I don't really see that happening at scale, but like
Yeah.
that would help a lot.
What I
And
do, I restrict myself. Like this is another weird thing. I don't know if it's just me, but like I don't create endless images because I know those cost a lot of money and mostly environmentally. Like it's just so many resources for me to create. Like I created an image of a kitchen, but the island was a hot tub because I was like trying to see like, cool interior design, like funky stuff it could do. Like that's just a waste of
yeah,
energy. I
yes,
indulged myself on the HVAC conversation. I just no holds barred
yes,
went in, and but because actually that was a ChatGPT Plus account, so I was
yeah,
paying, and so I was like, you know what, I got to learn about this. But
right,
I restrict myself. But it is interesting that you're saying 80% of the traffic is bots. So like,
yeah,
what is an individual like me doing, which is kind of the
yeah.
whole issue with the environmental movement in general.
To be clear, about 12% of that of the traffic is the AI chatbots we're talking about. The rest is, you know, search engines, spam
Right.
bots, malicious bots, other kinds
Mm-hmm.
of bots. There's all
Elon
kinds of
Musk's
bots.
tweets.
Elon Musk's tweets, which go out and crush the internet. So there are a lot of things that are happening, but it's just the collective problem is one thing, and the particular problem of AI chatbots, which are there to Google's there to index things in order to drive Google search. The original
Mm-hmm.
Google is there to index pages to send traffic to those websites because those websites exist so that they can attract people and get traffic. Whereas the AI chatbots are doing the opposite. They're on the site to steal what's
Right.
there and then use it as an alternative to that source site. And that is just that just strikes me as very wrong.
Interesting. Robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah,
But this actually is my other topic on the rundown, my last topic, which, what a brilliant segue. I can't believe I didn't think of this.
it's incredible.
It's about OpenAI actually does not have enough computing power to do what it wants. So we're talking about how much this takes. And the last two launches it's done, so GPT 4.5 and then the image generator that was really big this week, he has tweeted out, like, I think, quote, our GPUs are melting. The other time he said we've limited, this is a giant model we're out of GPUs. Like they're out. And so they're restricting their launches. It's really killing their momentum. They do not have enough computing power. And it seems to be true because they are restricting access. I think there's a subtext where he just wants like more funding for more servers.
Right.
Um, but he even OpenAI does not have enough computing power to right now. They're limited by it. So we are having a problem today with it. And I don't know. He even tweeted after that a third tweet. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. He said expect delays and issues with all of our
Yeah.
launches.
Well, the particular thing that happened is that they came out with a new image model, and one of the things you could do with that is upload
Mm-hmm.
a picture of yourself or your family or whatever, and say make a Japanese cartoon out of this. What do they call that style? It's a specific
Ghibli, the
style.
studio Ghibli. It's
Yes,
those amazing. Boy and the Heron was a recent one that they made.
yes, beautiful
Spirited Away.
Japanese,
Yeah,
and so people were just doing that at massive scale. Somebody on
crazy
X
scale.
posted one of himself and his wife or his girlfriend, and then it just went viral, and everybody was doing it. And you've seen those all over the internet. That's one of the things that
Yeah.
crushed it. And now you can't do that anymore. They
Hmm.
limited it to like you can describe a scene, it will create a cartoon, but it won't be based on your photo. And so that's one of the
Got it.
ways that they are restricting it. But like you say, there's a whole bunch of other ways they're having to restrict it because they're just overwhelmed. And
Right.
you can imagine how much compute capacity they have,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not
So
enough.
much. Yeah. I mean, so they actually, the first time they restricted it was for the GPT 4.5 launch.
Mhm.
And then the second time was the image generator this week. And so
Yeah,
they were already having issues pre image generator, but then the image generator became, I would say, its most popular product just since ChatGPT.
right.
Like, has really taken off. So now they're really screwed. And they're
Yeah.
like, hey guys, we're really screwed. And I don't know. It's a bit lame, huh? Like when you're launching a product and you're rolling it back twice in a row.
It's a little bit like old school Twitter. Remember the fail well? It's like, it was the hot new social network, and there was like 5 years where they just couldn't keep up with the growth and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of lame. You think, well, just throw how many how much money have they raised? $80 billion or something? I'm making that
They
number up,
just
but
closed the biggest round ever this week
yeah,
as well.
right. And
Private
it's
round
not
in
enough.
tech. Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. And the craziest thing of all to me is that, and, and this is one of those tragic ironies. I'm sitting here like, I go to the store and I bring a bag because I want to help the environment, or I turn off the fluorescent light in the kitchen because I want to save energy. And these guys are burning planets worth of
Mm-hmm.
energy
I
so that
know.
people can create cartoons and that kind of thing. It's really kind of disgusting. I don't know what to think about it. It's there's also a problem with Bitcoin and
Yeah.
mined
I mean,
cryptocurrencies.
what I think about it is that I think they should become better engineers. I think they should. Engineers are getting paid gigantic salaries, and I used to work in tech. Many of them are complacent. They are not working that hard. They're getting paid a ton of money. There is not a lot of incentive to
Yeah.
truly think about engineering. It's very few that really think about their craft, read books on the weekends, and are like, how do I implement the right tech strategy? We need everyone in AI to be doing that to make
Hmm.
more efficient computing so that every request is executed like quicker, faster, in a better route in the system and doesn't take like it basically like trawling at the bottom of the ocean
Hmm.
instead of just fishing is like what's
Hmm.
going on. And that's why the DeepSeek launched, where it appeared that they had figured out how to do it more
Hmm.
efficiently. But I think we need engineers to really like step up to the plate, and they should not be getting paid $300,000 to work from 10 to 2 p.m. and do a couple of releases. Like those
Yeah.
days need to be over.
Well, a lot of the going rate for in Silicon Valley for an AI specialist is way past $1 million a year. They
Yeah,
get paid a
wow.
fortune.
And I know that they're working, but it's that amount of money. You need to have a little fear in your heart. I think it's because even if you coast for 3 years, you just got $3 million. Move to
But
Wyoming and chill.
right, exactly. Uh, the, I think you nailed it. It's about incentives. Instead of trying to
Yes.
dazzle everybody with the most human-like, super brilliant AGI system, instead dazzle people with useful chatbots that
Mm-hmm.
don't hallucinate and
Yeah.
are providing this service cost effectively and energy efficiently. That's what the world
Mm-hmm.
needs. But that's not where the incentives are. The incentives are, especially
No.
for for OpenAI, to convince investors to dump as much money as possible into it so that it appears that the cost of what they're providing is what they're charging, when in fact
Mm-hmm.
the actual cost, right, if they had to break even or make a profit, ChatGPT would cost $500 a user or something like that. And
Right.
so that the way that Silicon Valley thinks about raising massive amounts of money, moving fast and breaking things, and then being in the lead, and then establishing a kind of monopoly and then you can charge whatever you want, all that kind of stuff. That is really problematic environmentally and in terms of cost
Yeah.
and in terms of all kinds of things. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know. It's all about incentives for the
yeah,
AI companies, for the people at the AI companies. I don't know what the public's supposed to do. We're all kind of caught in the middle here.
yeah,
Asking about
absolutely.
asking about HVAC and
That's right.
be happy, go on
Yeah.
vacation. That's what
I
I'm doing.
wonder, you were trying to make sure your house has air conditioning, but I wonder how much extra air conditioning was required just for your session, right, in
Ugh,
the data centers,
that's
right?
terrible. That's
Um,
terrible.
Down
Hey,
now,
but I
don't
went with
it's
the heat pump, so it's extremely
great.
efficient.
Those are supposed to be great. They love them
Yes,
in Europe, don't they?
yes, they
So,
do. I got a European engineered heat pump, which I wonder if I had gotten the quote 2 weeks later, it wouldn't have been on the quote because it's not made in the U.S.
right, right.
So
And unlike me, who really doesn't know what a heat pump is or how it works or what it's for or all that stuff, you
yes,
know all about them now, thanks to ChatGPT and its
yes,
helpful expertise.
I do. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to be positive for once about AI. I couldn't resist. We slipped into some of the issues, but we'll see. It's nice to. I feel more balanced in my head about it today.
I feel 80% good about AI in general,
Hmm.
and trends in AI in general. And the reason is, and I may have mentioned this on the podcast before, but the reason is that every day I go through my searches. I have these canned searches that I have as bookmarks, and it's kind of my daily research to keep in touch with all the things that I'm going to be writing about. And one of them is, I think it's called Eureka Alert. It's a website that takes all of the press releases from science, and
Okay.
it's like 200
And
a
it says
day.
Eureka.
Eureka! We've discovered
That's fun.
the cure for Lyme disease or something like that. But no,
Yeah.
it's actual science. Universities, etc.
Right.
And I go through there. I'm interested in other things besides AI. Like I'm also interested in health and food and
Mm-hmm.
environment and all these other things. So I just I look through every category every day,
Cool.
and probably 15% of them are AI related, and the majority of the work that's being done in AI is like, disease detection. It's helping with the environment. It's helping farmers use less water. It's all these things you never hear about because
Hmm.
nobody cares about it. Everybody cares about the horse race. Is OpenAI beating Google?
Right.
What's happening? Like our focus when we think of AI is for the public is way off. We're thinking about chatbots.
Right.
Chatbots are not that important. We're thinking about the horse race between the technology companies, who's winning, who's losing. Who cares? What's really happening in AI is all these breakthroughs are being made in the sciences, and those little breakthroughs add up to big breakthroughs that actually make people's lives
Right.
better. And that's why I'm mostly positive about AI.
Hmm. I really like how you quantified that. So you're at 80%. I
Yes.
don't feel like I'm at 80%. I mean, I feel like this HVAC thing got me from 25 to 50 or
Yeah.
60 maybe. Like
Right.
I just had a long string of hallucinations like the past 6 months. I just could
Right.
not get anything useful. So this
Yeah.
was like a big bump up, but I'm going to need a couple more
Yeah.
to get me going. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we can keep track of that. So you're at
Yes.
80% today. I'll say I'm at 50. I'm 50-50.
We should have a graph that's like our
Yeah.
esteem of AI over time. Yeah,
Right.
because it does come and
Right.
go. But again, I think that and whose fault it is that the public is not paying attention to the most important thing. It's basically my fault because my job as an opinion columnist
No.
is to find out what's wrong with public opinion and make it right
Hmm.
by explaining all this stuff. So I guess to a small degree we're doing that a bit here in the podcast, but
Right.
it's up to us journalists
Well,
to understand the bigger picture and to explain it to the public.
that's
So,
true. I will say PC Mags comes at it from a different angle, which is like, how can it affect your day to day, like your
hmm
morning, your kids' soccer practice? So it's more about like how you as individuals use technology. I would love to just pontificate and do ayahuasca and talk about
hmm
all the societal issues, but
Speaking of
my
hallucinating,
yeah, I would like to just hallucinate myself.
yeah,
That'd be a lot more fun. But because I do work for a specific publication that just has like consumer focus.
yeah,
But I think
right,
I think there are multiple parts of the problem, and it's all good. But
yeah.
you should definitely do the ayahuasca stuff.
I you made me want to add. You are flying on ayahuasca as a prompt in ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
then and you're seeing your ancestors and stuff, and also what's the best HVAC system. I want to see
Well,
what it
that's what I
says.
would do with my weekend.
Yes. Well, Emily, I know you're going to go on vacation to Puerto Rico. That's going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
How could it be otherwise? The food is delightful. The climate is amazing.
Excellent.
You're going to be spending your time at the beach and all that kind of stuff, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Yep.
love Puerto Rico.
Yep.
So,
I've never been. It's my first time.
oh
So
wow, oh you're going to love it.
yeah.
It's fantastic. Yeah,
Okay, great.
it's like a Latin American country that's also America. It's like very like
Cool.
it's amazing. I love it.
Practice my Spanish. Be
There you go.
fun.
Yeah.
You've made it through another episode of the Unicorn Roast podcast with Mike Elgin and Emily Forlini. This podcast has no paywall, no ads, and no sponsors, so all we ask from you is a 5-star rating and a glowing review. If you could follow us and subscribe, you'll get links and show notes at our website, unicornroast.com, and we will see you next week.